Upgrades to Veterans Beach Park get the green light from the Conservation Commission. Unemployment numbers fall in Barnstable County in July. And Finance Director Mark Milne talks about an upcoming audit. These stories and more on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, September 3rd, 2014. I'm Sarah Mannel. A project to update the playground and parking lot at Veterans Beach Park gets the green light from the Conservation Commission. The commission voted unanimously to approve the renovations at its meeting last night. New playground equipment will be added and some pavement in the parking lot will be removed to make way for more vegetation. Town Council approved the plans earlier this summer. Work is scheduled to begin this fall. The economy is showing signs of improvement. The unemployment rate fell in Barnstable County in July. Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board, David Augustino, says Barnstable County's unemployment rate was 4.9% in July.
Essentially full employment just about anywhere. And as we've talked about before, comparing it to the same time last year in 2013, we were almost a full percentage point higher in 2013. We were 5.8% in 2013 in July, 4.9% in 2014. So I think that it shows the general strengthening of the economy in general here on the Cape and across the country. And I think that obviously as we move into the fall and winter months, our rates will go up. But I think that we'll probably stay at right around the state level for a good part of the next few months. Right now, we're a full percentage point under the state. The state unemployment rate for July was 6.1%. We were at 4.9%. So I think that that we'll more than hold our own through this fall, and of course our rates will go up during the winter.
Augustino says another sign the economy is bouncing back is the increase in jobs within the construction industry on Cape Cod. It's time for the town of Barnstable to go through an audit. Barnstable This Morning host Sarah Colvin talked about the process and why it's necessary with Finance Director Mark Milne. We share a portion of that interview with you now.
Hey, Mark, we're going to talk a little bit about audits. I think that's a word that makes most people a little nervous, when you think about audits and you think about outsiders reviewing financial statements. Tell me a little bit. I understand that the auditors are coming to town a little later on this month. They'll be here for a few weeks. Tell me a little bit about, why we need to be audited.
Sure. Yeah. As you mentioned, the auditors are coming. They will be here for the last couple of weeks of September into October. And we were required to have them come every year to review our financial statements, basically because it's in our charter. Our charter requires us to have an audit, a financial audit every single year, which is just good practice for whether you're private industry or public entities to have a independent auditor from outside the organization come in and review your financial statements to make sure that they fairly represent your financial situation. So the charter is one of the reasons why we have to have an audit. Another one is bond covenants. As you know, we issue a lot of bonds, and included in the covenants in those bonds, because investors are giving us money to fund many of our capital projects, they want to be reassured that they're investing their money safely. And so one of the assurances that we give them is that we give them a financial statement with an audit opinion every single year. So that it's in our bond covenants that we have an audit every single year to make sure that the investors are given the financial information on an annual basis. And if we're receiving federal grant awards, many of the federal grant, depending upon the amount of federal grant money we get, there's also a requirement from the federal grant award agencies that we have an audit every year as well.
Indeed, so many reasons for the audit. Talk to me a little bit about how it seems like it would be a pretty intense process, a lot of statements to examine. Talk to me a little bit about how that audit process works.
Sure, we put together a complete set of financial statements internally that it's over 100 pages long, a lot of footnotes and disclosures. It's just describing the accounting policies that we use, some internal control procedures in place, and of course all the numbers. And so the auditors come in, and then they'll do a test of transactions. They're not coming in and verifying that every single transaction that went through the town's accounting system was properly recorded. There's just no way of humanly possible to do something like that, because you're talking about millions of transactions on an annual basis. So what they do is they evaluate the adequacy of the internal control systems in place in order to ensure that they do what's called a risk assessment, to make sure that they feel comfortable that the internal control systems are adequately reporting the financial transactions. And so they come in and they look at those internal control systems, do that risk assessment, and then review the financial statements or the numbers that we provide them, and express an opinion, which there are 4 different types of, as to whether or not they represent fairly the town's financial position.
Indeed. And so talk to me, Mark, in the past, I would assume that Barnstable's audit comes out clean all of the time, just because of all the attention to detail that's paid in our financial division. So tell me, how have the results of the audits been over the past few years?
Yeah, like you said, we have received what's called a qualified opinion, or an unqualified opinion, every single year, which is a clean opinion. I know it sounds weird, unqualified.
Right.
These statements aren't qualified to be statements, but actually what it means is that there are no material misstatements in the financial statements, and that the auditors believe that they present fairly the town's financial position. And we have received that clean opinion for as long back as I can remember. The town was being audited, even prior to my coming here. So it's been decades now that the town has received a clean audit opinion every single year.
Well, that's certainly important. Is it something, Mark, that all municipalities are required to do?
Pretty much, yes. Very small municipalities may get by with an audit on a biennial basis, perhaps, because they're not doing any bond issuances. They're not receiving any federal grant money. So in order to save some money, they may just do an audit every other year to just ensure the citizens and the taxpayers and the elected officials in that community that their financial statements represent fairly the community's financial situation. But these days, most cities and towns across the nation are receiving annual financial audits, except for those smallest ones out there.
Sure. Is it the same organization that does the audit every year, Mark, or does it change? And how is the company that does the audit, how is that determined? Yeah,
we've had a couple of different companies doing the audits here for Barnstable, but we've used a company by the name of Powers & Sullivan for the past several years, who have done our audit. And what we've done, periodically, about every 6 years, what we do is a request for proposals for auditors to issue their proposal as to what their methodology for conducting the audit would be. And it's important for, when selecting an auditor, that you select an auditor that has the appropriate staff, meaning that they have enough staff who are experienced in the industry conducting the audit, because you don't want to hire an audit company to come in who has very limited experience in the municipal governmental industry doing your audit. So so we issue a request for proposal periodically, and invite auditors to come in and give us their proposals. So we've been using Powers & Sullivan now for the past few years in doing our audit, and we just signed them up for another 3-year period.
Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On tomorrow's show, we will get details about tomorrow night's town council meeting with President Jessica Rapp-Grissetti. Len Gobeil will continue his series on depression, and we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel.